All right, welcome everybody to week 3, day 2. This is going to be a short class today because I got a meeting with the UC Merced people at 1:30. So even if you didn't enjoy Relicta, I hope you enjoyed the process of looking at a game sort of systematically and analytically and like trying to break down the game elements and seeing what works and what doesn't. That's a really good skill to have, not just if you go into game development, but kind of in life in general. Like, does this software work? What could be better about it? That kind of stuff. That notion will kind of serve you in every field. Okay, so today we're gonna go over making a material. So material is things like this wood surface here, and can you see? Is it showing on the stream? Like how you can see there's like a pattern on like the wax coat on the wood. Do you guys see that? Does that come through on the stream?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can see it.
Yeah. So back in the day, we made these things called textures, and a texture is just a picture. And so you'd have like a picture of like a brick wall, and then you just slap that on a surface, and then you would just have a picture on the surface. Nowadays, we still have that. That's part of it, but we have these things called materials, and materials are more complicated, and you can layer them together. So this is going to have like a noise pattern, and the reflective surface of it is probably tied into like some sort of noise pattern. In fact, if we look at this here, if you double click on a material, it'll take you into the material editor, and you can see these things are a lot more complicated than just the base color. The base color is the texture. It's going to have a roughness, and that roughness is going to be, here's the wood, and it's going to be getting some noise. Yeah, here we go. So here's the noise. The noise comes in, multiplies with the wood, and then that's how shiny it is. So you can see that there are parts where it's shinier, parts where it's rougher, and that's from them blending together noise in interesting ways, and that creates that cool like mottled wax pattern on the wood. So it's a lot more interesting than just like a repeating wood texture over and over again. And if you look at this, you can see that there's not like an obvious repeating pattern, right, Alex? Do you see that? Like, you can't, it does. It's not like the same noise over and over and over again, right?
Yeah, it's like randomized.
Yeah, and so they did that by blending together 3 different noise patterns at different frequency levels, and so they add together and destructively and constructively interfere, and they end up creating a really nice looking effect here. So today, let's just make a new material from scratch. Let's make something to go on our stairway here. Stairway is just a boring gray color. So we are going to make a new material. So whenever I do a project in Unreal Engine, I always just make a folder for myself, and I call that folder Bill. And that's just so that all the stuff that I make is in one place. It's not, the best way of doing it. The best way of doing it is, to have a better organizational structure. I tend to just throw everything into the folder just because it helps me find the stuff I want to show to you guys. So go into your Bill folder, presumably you can name it after yourself. And so down here in the content browser, if you don't see the folders on the left-hand side here, you have to click on that little thing here, show or hide the sources panel, click on that, and then it'll give you the folder outline. And so here in the Bill folder, and you make a folder by right-clicking and choosing New Folder. I'm going to right-click and choose New Material. And I'm going to call this new material Stairway to Heaven, Stair Material. Okay. And for Stover and Krente, I'd like for you guys to put together a nice material. Like, use all the tricks and stuff that you know, and make something cool for me. But for Meredith and Alex, I'm just going to go through the basics here. So when you right click, you make the material. I'm calling it stair material. You can call it whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. You end up getting this gray thing here. And if you were to drag that over to the stairway to apply the material to it, you see it's just like a shiny plastic black, right? Like that's kind of the default. Like if you don't do anything, it turns out as like a shiny black. Okay. If you want to do something a little more interesting, then shiny black plastic everywhere in your world, which would be a very boring game, right? then what you want to do is double click on the material, and this takes you into something called the material editor. And so the material editor has these things are considered like outputs. So what is the color of the stair? How metallic is the stair? How shiny? These things control shininess in different fashions. We'll talk about. Does it glow? Does it have little areas of bumps and craters and stuff like that on it? We talked about ambient occlusion before. You can add an ambient occlusion map to it if you have that figured out. The ones up top here are the most important ones. And so these things, you set the base color by sort of dragging out of that pin, and you get like a wire. And so wherever that wire goes, you can put a node, and then that node will feed the color into the base color. So the most basic thing you can do for a color is just to give it a flat color, not even a texture like we were showing with the wood, just a flat, like let's make it orange or something hideous like that. And the shortcut for this, I'll show you in a second, but there's something called a constant 3 vector. And if you want to do a shortcut for it, you hold down 3 on your keyboard, hold down 3 and click, and it gives you one of those. And this thing here is a color picker. So if you double click on the color picker here, it pulls this up, and let's just go with like a hideous orange color like that. And by default, it's still going to be black because you have to turn the brightness up too. So turn the brightness up all the way and just kind of drag it around until you get kind of a horrible color that you like. Ooh, that's like it. Let's go with more orange. It's like a peach color. None of these are ugly enough. I really want an ugly color. That's like I don't know. It's like when you drink watered down Tang or Sunday Delight. I'll go with that. So you hit OK. And so again, to get there, hold down 3, click, drag the pen over onto base color, and then double click the color picker. And then the thing that I always forget is to drag the brightness up, right? You get really excited. You're like, look at all the colors. But you notice the output is still black, and that's because by default, for whatever reason, the brightness is 0. So you have to drag the brightness up if you want to see any colors other than black. And you can kind of play with these sliders if you want. And anyhow, if you want to delete a node, select it, hit delete. So I got this horrible orange color. I'm going to hit save, and you see the star goes away. I'm going to, I'll just dock the window over here so that I can click back and forth between the world and the material. Sometimes I keep it separate so that I can kind of like observe the world as I'm doing it. Usually, though, I have it on a different monitor. And so I'm going to drag the material onto the stairway. You can see it's turning this horrible, like, Sunny Delight color here. And over here on this window, where am I? If I were to come over here and change it to like a darker orange color, notice that it doesn't change in the world until I hit save. When I hit save, it'll update, and now it's like a darker orange. You guys see that? So you can sit there and just play with it, and I just want you guys to come up with the ugliest, most obnoxious shade. Oh, that's ugly. Wow, look at that. That is a really obnoxious color. It's like a yellow with a little bit of green in it. It's like an orange green. Are you guys with me on this? Like, is that like that? That looks like nauseating. That is a really bad color. I love it. Yeah, that, man, I need to get that on a t-shirt. What is the color value of that? I gotta write this down. Hex. Okay. DC4. Let's see what we got here. Let's see if there's a name for this. That's an ugly color, man.
Disappointment yellow.
Disappointment yellow, is that what it's called, really?
No.
That's a good name. Am I getting my... Yeah, meeting warning. Yeah. You guys need to find out what the name of this is. I'm gonna bookmark this, so you can use that later. That's an ugly color. Okay, so anyway, so you can kind of keep one window, like if you're on a single monitor, you can just kind of keep it up, and it won't show in the world until you hit save. So I'm not going to lose my beautiful orange green color. I'm just going to show you guys the next thing. So the next thing is, and you can, if you move these things around, as long as they're hooked up, they'll stay hooked up. So the next thing is metallic. And so metallic is usually either 0 or 1. It's 0 if it's a plastic, it's 1 if it's metal. There are these things called quasi-metals that are in between plastic and metal, but they're not usually very common. So what we want to do is use a constant 1, or just a constant. If you hold down 1 and click, it gives you a constant. And drag that in there, and so you won't notice any difference here because the default is 0, which is the default anyway. So you won't see any difference until you change the value over here on the left hand side. You can change the value to 1, and you will notice that it now looks like a metal. Yay, cool. And if you set it to like 0.5, you'll get like a quasi-metal, which is like some alien substance that's half plastic, half metal. They don't really exist in the real world. So I'm just going to turn it to metal here. And look at this out of the way. And it's over here a little bit. And then when I hit save, you'll see that this will turn into an orange-green metallic nightmare. And if I play the game, you can see I've got this just a really obnoxious shade. It actually looks better as a metal, I have to say. Like that I would actually see in a video game. Like,
That actually kind of looks sick.
yeah, like that's actually not. Yeah, like I would put that on like on a weapon, you know,
like a cheap car wrap. That's what it looks like.
yeah, yeah, or like I would get a weapon made out of that. You know what I mean?
It's pretty cool. Yeah, like it has like a black pearlescent to it almost, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, like somehow that went from like, I don't know, horrible to like not bad. So let me turn it back into plastic. Hit save, and then you'll see that this goes from a metallic surface to a plastic surface. And that, yeah, I'm sorry, that's just not a that's just not a good color. But with metal, yeah, I'm actually kind of happy with it as a metal. So, oh, object mission to create an ugly metal failed, I guess. I don't know. So you guys understand? So in order to create a constant 1. You hold down 1. A constant 1 just means a single number. And so you just hold down 1, click, and then you just wire it up. And then if you want to set the value, it's over here. And you can drag it if you want to give it different values. For metallic, 0 and 1 are all that matter. So next up is specular. And again, I'm going to just make that a constant. And a specular has to do with the specular highlighting. So if you've ever seen a billiard ball, a pool ball, you'll notice they have these specular highlights on them, these little shiny patches, right? Like, that's usually a sign that something's very smooth and shiny, is that they'll have a specular highlight on them. That's the name of those little dots, those light dots on them. You're nodding for no reason. Good. That's good. It means the lecture is successful. And when they get kind of messed up, you see how the specular highlight gets bigger, right? Because it's a rougher surface. A rougher surface will actually have a wider and more diffuse highlight on it, whereas the more new they are, the smaller and tighter and brighter the specular highlights are. So if we set a specularity to 0, this means no specular highlights at all, and you will see this thing will look pretty bad. It's just, you see how there's no reflection of the sun at all on it? It looks dead, right? Like it doesn't even look like a real material. You know what I mean? Like you're expecting to see some shininess, you know, like on my cheek right here, you know, on my forehead, there's some specular highlights. It actually looks almost unnatural to have a 0 speck on it. So, and then if we turn this up to 1, you will see it become like shiny boy. There, see? And so now it's like a super shiny reflective surface. You see how the sun reflects off of it now? We missed all of that before. We missed the sun Praise the sun. Okay, so that's probably it's like it's hurting my eyes. Like it's too bright. Like who would make a stairway that's so shiny? Like you know. And so what you really want to do is like sit there and play around with the specular values, and 0.4 still pretty shiny. 0.2, and you have to hit save every time. I'll show you a better way of doing that in the future. Yeah, it looks pretty good. You see how do you see how the sun still appears on that there? Like you can see the reflection of the sun, but it's kind of it's not obnoxious, right? It's still, you know, when it was at 0, like it just felt weird because, you know, it's just not reacting at all to sunlight, which is just a strange feeling. You know, this is a fairly diffuse specular highlight, but you can still see this is plastic, and you know, it got uglier. Okay, so now there's roughness. So I'll hold down 1 and click and hook it up to roughness. So a roughness of 0 means that it is not rough at all. And so if I save this with a roughness of 0, then this thing is perfectly smooth, perfectly shiny like a pool ball. And perhaps if I hooked it up, it would work better. There we go. Save. And you see how see how it's, look at that. You see how shiny it is now? That's that's the sun up there, and it's reflecting off, right? And it looks weird because, you know, nothing in real life is like perfectly, you know, reflective like this. It's like a mirror basically now, and it just doesn't look very natural, right? Especially for a surface that people are walking on. Like when you walk on it, you scuff it up, and so let's set it down to a roughness of 0 and hit save. And so now hit save. Roughness of 0. Save. Why are you so shiny? Oh no, shoot, other way around, sorry. Roughness of 1, my bad. And save. And and now you can see, again, it has that same sort of unrealistic quality that it had with no specular. It's so rough that it just doesn't look real. And so play with it 0.5 and save. So now it's like moderately shiny. Let's put it up to 0.8. So it's like pretty rough now. And what you'll see is that it gets diffused. Like the sunlight gets more and more diffused out. Because when you have a rough surface, there's all sorts of like little valleys and mountains on it. So it scatters the light wider and wider the more of those are. And that's probably a little bit too rough. Like you can't even see like the sun at all now. It's like maybe 0.65. Yeah, and so that's a nice, you see how there's still, like the sun's still reflecting off it, but it's pretty, like it's pretty spread out. Like you don't even see any of the shine of like the sun itself. It's just kind of, you know, it's just kind of there in the background. It's not bad. It's not terrible. Okay, so these are the 4 things that you usually care the most about. After that is emissive color. Usually most surfaces don't glow, so we're going to ignore that for now. The other really important thing is the normal. And so the normal map is used to add surface detail to an object. So if you want to have raised areas and lowered areas, like think about a tile floor where the tiles are a little bit off the floor, and then you have the grout, the channel in between that's a little bit lower. You can simulate that using something called a normal map. And so in order to bring in a normal map, we have to use a texture sample. So I'm just right-clicking, typing in texture. You can also hold down T and click, and that gives you a texture sample. So hold down T and click, and that gives you a texture sample, so you don't have to search for it every time. And then you just drag that into there. And then the texture sample is going to be, I don't know, what should we do? Clay, brick, clay, old. Sure, let's do that. Okay, and look at what happens now. So this is a normal map. It's not a picture. It's not a texture. It's a normal map. And so what that means is that it tells the engine what areas are bumped up and what areas are bumped down. And if you look at that now, we still have this hideous color, but look, it looks as if, maybe if I make it a little shinier, it'll be a little more obvious. Roughness, I'm going to drop that down to 0.4, make it a little shinier. Look, you see that? Doesn't it look like it's kind of like 3D now, right? Like, doesn't it look like there's all that detail and the little bumps and cracks are kind of reflecting the light properly? Huh? Pretty cool, huh? And it's still, and there's no picture. Like, I haven't even used a texture yet. This is just that pure ugly orange, yellow, green color here with just a normal map added, and now it looks kind of cool, huh? Yeah. And so all the normal map is doing is that it's tricking the surface is still just a perfectly flat plane. There's absolutely no detail in the geometry at all. If you were to look at the wireframe here, nope. If you were to look at the wireframe here, it's kind of hard to see. The thing is just a flat surface, right? There's absolutely no detail on it, but the normal map lets it pretend that there are raised and lowered surfaces. And if you go on from the side, you'll see that they're actually not raised at all. If you look at it from the side, you see that like there's no actual elevation or depression. There's no actual groove in the brick. It's just simulating that by just messing with how the lighting calculations work, and it's a pretty cool effect. And so there's a lot of normal maps in there. They're all when you do a texture sample, click on that, and if you scroll around, anything that ends with an _n in it is going to be a normal map. And so if we pull that out, you can see we now got like a tile floor, and the little grouting in between looks depressed, not sad, just depressed. And the tile areas look raised up. And so you can do this to add geometric detail to surfaces without actually having to push more triangles into the world. Because the more triangles you have in the world, the slower the world runs. And so normal maps are a great way of making it seem like you got all these curved surfaces and all this detail, and it's actually not. This is just these are two triangles here. This whole surface that we're walking on here is just two triangles, but it looks like there's all sorts of stuff going on. So what I would like for y'all to do for your homework assignment is to make a material. So one last thing, if you don't want to do a solid color, you can do a texture sample. And so this one was called ceramic tile N. So I'm going to search over here for ceramic tile. Ooh, I don't like that. That's ugly. Really? I don't like that one. Let's do brick. Bevel, new. Brick cut stone. Okay, let's do that. And I'll drag that onto the base color. And if you do a texture on the base color, then rather than a solid color, you get a picture. Look. And so I've got this picture of a rock with the normal map of the tile. You see that? So it's as if somebody laid down tile with just like a picture of stone on top of it. Kind of cool. If you want the normal map to match up with the texture, then let's see, this one was brick cut stone. You can come over here and do brick cut stone normal map like this, and hit save. And now the normal map and the texture map match up, and the areas of detail on the rock match the detail on the normal map, and it looks like we are on a very complicated rocky surface with like cracks and grooves and things like that. And all it did was take, just a couple clicks, and it looks pretty sweet. I think it's a little bit too shiny. It's a little bit too shiny, and I made it shiny so that we could see that normal map. So I think I turned the roughness back up on stone, like maybe 0.7. This, you made a forbidden material. That's funny. And so you can see now it's less shiny. That looks pretty good. Okay. So that is your job for Tuesday. I want you to make a material, and Corrente and Stover, I want you guys to do something more impressive with subsurface scattering or dual layers or a material function or something like that. Okay?
I apologize that I suck.
You suck? What happened?
I apologize.
What happened?
Nothing.
For the picture?
No. I was just saying that I apologize for being new.
Yeah. No, it's
Not being able to do something present.
no. Corinthian and Stover will get to do a more advanced material project, but
Yeah.
you guys just do this. Okay. These are the things to hook up. Pick a texture. Pick a normal map that goes to the texture if you want it to look good, or if not, like you saw how you can mix and match different normal maps in it, and it creates interesting effects. It's like somebody had a wallpaper of a stone picture and put it on tile, kind of thing.
Can I take like a image and make it into like
Absolutely, yeah. A texture
If I
sample.
wanted like a Pepe the Frog camo, can I
Yeah,
do that?
absolutely. Yeah, a texture sample is just a picture. You can just import a picture, and then use that as your texture. Absolutely.
Awesome. Would you mind showing me
How to do that?
how to do it?
Well, my meeting started 4 minutes ago, so
Okay.
just literally.
No, you're fine.
No, it's fine. Here we go.
No,
It's no. Education comes first. So here's Pepe. Save image as desktop. We're gonna call this Pepe and close. Let's hope we can import it. There's sometimes you get issues with file types not being correct. Here we go. Pepe comes in here. Come up here, click here, and search for Pepe. And it goes there, and we hit save, and we move it over here, and there you are.
So like I could submit that, and that would be good. Okay, no.
Yeah, you'd probably want to change you would want to scale it a little bit, and
Okay.
so we could do that by doing texture coordinates and things like that. But yeah, just don't worry about that for now. That would be perfectly acceptable. And this looks actually it looks kind of funny. Like if I just made this building a little bigger, it'd look like graffiti or whatever. So
Yeah, that's funny.
that is it for today. So we will stick with that and save everything, and I will see you guys on Tuesday. All right.
Okay.
Thanks
Thank
for
you. In person, right?
what's that? In person on
In person.
Tuesday. In person on Tuesday. Yep. Maybe I'll bring some
Awesome.
in person board games or something. We can play them for a little bit. All right. See you guys. Bye.
Peace out.